The VR market is alive and well, awash with high-quality headsets from big-name companies like HP, HTC, Oculus and Valve. But which is the best headset for under $1,000? This includes the Valve Index, a PC-tethered HMD, the HP Reverb G2, a Windows mixed reality headset which features inside-out tracking, the Oculus Quest 2, a standalone device that can play its own games, and the Vive Cosmos, HTC's gaming offer. This also includes the discontinued but currently still available in the UK Rift S. But first, a word from our sponsors. This video is brought to you by cdkoffers.com, a great CD keys website that offers CD keys for PC. I was after a Windows 10 Pro key, which I found for just over $20, and you can get a further 20% discount when you use my discount code TAO on checkout. I downloaded the key and activated it in Windows, no hassle, no bother at all. Check out cdkoffers.com, link to their website down in the video description. The rules of this mean that the offering needs to include everything you need to get up and running, so no headsets that don't come with controllers and the tracking system, so I'm afraid that discounts the upcoming Vive Pro 2, which would also exceed our $1,000 limit once you include the base stations and controllers. And the categories that we're going to use to compare these headsets are going to be the overall quality of the display, the accuracy of the tracking, that includes both the headset and the controllers, the overall comfort of the device, as well as the games library that's available to it, the ease of setup of the device, and of course the value of money that it represents. Starting first with the Valve Index, which has a resolution of 1440 by 1600 per eye, and most impressively a refresh rate of 144 Hz. Now what that means is that you can natively display games and run those up to 144 frames per second, of course dependent on your PC hardware. But if your PC can keep up, it really does create a buttery smooth experience. Any issues around motion sickness are really likely to be resolved due just to how quickly these panels are refreshing. There is some screen door effect that is visible, but it is greatly reduced over older generation headsets like the original Rift and Vive. The colours are okay, but a little washed out in comparison to some of the competitors. But overall, it's a very good display indeed, and the high refresh rate, I think, warrants it a solid 4 out of 5. The Reverb G2 has the highest resolution of all of the headsets in our roundup here of 2160 by 2160 per eye. Colours are vibrant, and I don't know quite how HP have pulled it off, but the blacks are pretty inky deep actually. There's absolutely no screen door effect to be seen here, and without a doubt this is a challenging headset for your PC to drive, but if it can, frankly, I was blown away by just how good this headset looked. It's noticeably different to any of the others when you pull it on. It's definitely deserving of a full 5 out of 5. Next, the Quest 2 with an impressive 1832 by 1920 per eye, and Oculus, through their iterative development, have upped the refresh rate of this to 120 Hz. Now that 120 Hz isn't compatible with all games, but it is now compatible with both the cabled PC tethering and the wireless PC tethering, and that's very impressive indeed. However, when you are tethered to your PC, because it is effectively streaming the image either via USB or over your Wi-Fi, there are compression artifacts that can appear in the periphery of your vision. However, the display is still very solid, albeit the image can be a little soft at times. But for native Quest and Quest 2 games, it really does look great. It's particularly good for watching VR videos, but it isn't anywhere near as good as the Reverb G2. It's a solid 4 out of 5 for the display on the Quest 2. Next, the Vive Cosmos, which also has a very solid display, a resolution of 1440 by 1700, so slightly higher than the Index, and the colours are very vibrant on this headset as well, with good inky dark blacks to boot. It's got a solid refresh rate at 90Hz, so not quite as high as some of its competitors, but there's no compression here due to the native DisplayPort connectivity. It's a solid 4 out of 5 for the Cosmos. The Rift S has the lowest resolution of our headsets here, sporting 2560 by 1440 per eye, and disappointingly only an 80Hz refresh rate. Now, it's perfectly usable. I didn't personally encounter any significant motion sickness, but it is at least 10 Hz slower than any other headset and significantly more than some others. It's by no means bad, but I really can't justify giving it any more than a 2 out of 5. Onwards to a tracking capability, and starting again with the Valve Index. Now, the Valve Index makes use of external lighthouse tracking sensors. This has a spinning laser inside it that's being reflected by some mirrors, and effectively what that does is sweep a laser across the entirety of your room. And the Index makes use of sensors on both the VR headset and the Knuckles controllers. And this actually, through timing where the laser sweep is in space, gives sub-millimeter accuracy in the tracking, and it's very, very crisp and sharp indeed. Because it's making use of this external system, if your controllers go behind your back or behind the side of your head, if you're pulling the arrow on a bow as an example, there's no loss of tracking that you would typically find with an inside-out tracking system that makes use of cameras on the head-mounted display. If you get the lighthouse sensors set up in the right position, this really is an exceptional tracking system. It's a solid 5 out of 5 for the Index. The HP Reverb G2 makes use of the Windows Mixed Reality Tracking System, and HP have added 2 additional cameras to the headset to really try and crispen up the tracking. Unfortunately, it's still not very good. Now, in fairness, the actual HMD itself, the actual VR headset, tracks pretty well. As you move your head around and turn it, it's actually largely as good as any other headset in this lineup. But unfortunately, the tracking of the controllers is a little wanting. There's noticeable controller drift from time to time, but most noticeably, the algorithm that is trying to predict the location of the controllers when they go behind your back or to the side of your head isn't doing a very good job of that. And typically these headsets make use of accelerometers inside the controllers to do this, but the algorithm, the software, the coding that HP have done for this, I guess arguably that Microsoft have done for this, really isn't doing a very good job, and you do get noticeable snap-ins of the controllers. It doesn't feel smooth or natural at all. So unfortunately, it's a 2 out of 5 for the HP Reverb. The Quest 2 makes use of Oculus's excellent inside-out tracking system. It's frankly the best in the business. It makes use of 4 small cameras positioned forward, facing up and down at the front of the headset. And whilst the controllers are in view of these cameras, it's really sharp and responsive. Very little lag, actually. It feels pretty crisp indeed. Of course, it loses the controllers when they go behind your back or to the side of your head, but the software, the algorithm that's predicting the position of this, does a reasonable job of it, actually, making use of the accelerometers. And when the controllers come back into your field of view, it does this relatively smoothly. It feels pretty natural when they do that. It's not, of course, as crisp as the Steam VR tracking system with the Lighthouse base stations, so it's a 4 out of 5 here. And on to the Vive Cosmos. Well, tracking really is the Cosmos's Achilles heel, I'm afraid. It's not particularly easy to set up, requiring you to do sweeping look around your room in order for it to be able to configure and calibrate its tracking. The actual HMD, when you've done this, is okay when it works, but it is quite sensitive to rooms that are too light and too dark. And the Aztec patterning that lights up on the controllers, whilst it looks pretty funky and interesting, it's a hardware limitation that has made it really difficult for HTC to accurately track these controllers. It suffers terribly with controller drift, the worst of the bunch, and they've tried to fix this with software patches over time, but they just haven't been able to bring it up to standard. Unfortunately, it's disappointing to give it such a low score, but it is a 1 out of 5 for the Vive Cosmos. Now onto the Rift S, which also makes use of the excellent Oculus tracking system. With use of the controllers, there's nothing to differentiate it between the Quest 2, but it doesn't have that excellent hand tracking capability that the Quest 2 offers, so it's a 3 out of 5. Now, on to comfort, the Valve Index first as always, and despite being heavier than some of the other headsets in this lineup, it's really well balanced. It doesn't feel like it's tipping forward or tipping backwards. It's nicely balanced on your head. It has a fantastic mechanical ratchet system in the head strap that's really, really comfortable, and it's got great antimicrobial fabric on its cushioning material, which is really soft. It's going to be great for anybody who's got sensitive skin. It's also got an adjustment to move the lenses and the display further away from your eyes or closer to them, so you can tweak that nice balance between comfort and wider field of view. For those that have longer eyelashes, those that have like beautiful luscious eyelashes, you might want that a little bit further away. It can be a little bit discombobulating if you feel your eyelashes brushing against the screen, but if you can get them closer, it's quite deepening from an immersion perspective, and it doesn't affect the overall quality of the display that you're looking at. It's got a mechanical IPD, which allows you to move the lenses side to side to get them aligned with the center of your eyes. All of us have slightly different spacing between our eyes. So IPD stands for interpupillary distance, and the Knuckles controllers also feel great, really ergonomic, and also make use of that antimicrobial fabric. Fantastic quality overall. It's a solid 5 out of 5 for the Index. On to the Reverb G2, which takes inspiration, flat out borrows many of the very good features from the Valve Index. It's got that same antimicrobial fabric. It's got the fantastic over-ear speakers, so you've got no clamping force on your ears. The headset is lighter than the Index, so it's comfortable from that perspective. It hasn't got the balance quite as good as the Valve Index, but it's pretty good overall. Lacks some of those adjustment features. It does have a mechanical IPD adjustment, but you can't move the lenses forwards and backwards, and it lacks the mechanical ratchet system on the strap, so it's not quite as good as the Index, but overall actually this is a very comfortable headset, very solid 4 out of 5. The Quest 2 has pretty reasonable foam at the front. It's not quite as nice on your skin as that antimicrobial fabric, but it's comfortable enough. It's a light device, but it makes use of a fabric strap, no doubt, to cut down on costs that you would have associated with a more rigid strap around your head. This has a habit of loosening over time, which causes the headset to droop down on the front of your face. It is a comfortable headset overall, but not as good as the two previous devices that we've described, so it's a 3 out of 5 for the Quest 2. You can buy aftermarket Elite head straps, but they're an extra cost, so we've excluded them from this narrative. On to the Vive Cosmos. Well, the short answer is it's not that comfortable at all, particularly in extended play sessions. The cushioning can be quite coarse against your skin, but my real issue with this is it's very front heavy. It makes use of this Halo style banding system, and it's comfortable enough actually when you first put it on, but you do notice when you're in extended play sessions that there's quite a lot of pressure on the front of your forehead. Now granted, I've got plenty of forehead real estate, but this will be true for anybody, and it's so uncomfortable actually. I've actually had to stop sessions of Elite Dangerous as an example because I can't actually stand to wear the headset anymore. It's frankly an unacceptable level of comfort. It's a very poor 2 out of 5. On to the Rift S, which is a very, very light headset, actually. It's got a halo system, but none of these problems with mismanagement of the weight and thus pressure on your forehead. The foam that interfaces with your face is quite disappointing out of the box. I think Lenovo could have done a much better job with that. But overall, it's pretty comfortable. It's okay, perfectly fine for extended play sessions. And if you go for an aftermarket kit, it will improve it substantially. Of course, we've discounted that from this analysis, so it's a 3 out of 5 for the Rift S. Now, into the meat of the headsets, the gaming experience. And largely, this comes down to how many gaming ecosystems can this headset plug into. And by that, I mean things like the Steam VR environments, the Vive port environments, and the Oculus environments. Now, there are ways in which you can play Oculus games on non-Oculus devices using software such as Revive, but it's inconsistent in its application, therefore we've decided to discount it from this analysis. And doing this somewhat slightly out of order, both of the Oculus devices have an advantage because they can plug into the Oculus VR ecosystem, and there are some great exclusive titles in there, including things like Lone Echo on the PC-based devices. But the Quest 2 tips the post because it has its own Quest environment as well, and it has some fantastic exclusives such as some of the Star Wars games, the Jurassic World game that's come out, and the Climb 2, which is currently a Quest exclusive. So it's a full 5 out of 5 for that. It's a 4 out of 5 for the Rift S, and both of these devices can make use of the Steam VR and the Vive port ecosystems, as well as the Oculus One. All of the other devices which can only make use of the Steam VR ecosystem and the Viveport ecosystem, so they all get a 3 out of 5. Now, arguably, the Reverb G2 can make use of the Windows Mixed Reality VR ecosystem as well, and whilst Microsoft Flight Simulator had originally been planned to be an exclusive on this platform, that didn't actually end up happening. It was opened up to Steam VR as well, so you're not missing any exclusivity by not being able to use Windows Mixed Reality, so no extra points for the Reverb G2, I'm afraid. Now on to setup, and again starting with the Valve Index. I do think this is a little bit of more of a pain to set up than some of the inside-out tracking headsets. You have to get lighthouse sensors set up, and they are sensitive if you knock them or move them. You have to go through that setup process as well, so the best thing to do really is to mount them on stands or drill holes in your wall, so it is a more laborious setup process than most of the other headsets on here. However, I do find that the Index is absolutely rock solid when you connect it to your PC. With many of these other headsets, they don't always start necessarily in the right way the first time. That includes, interestingly, some of the Oculus devices as well. The Windows Mixed Reality can be very fiddly indeed, but the Valve Index with native integration into Steam VR is absolutely rock solid. I never have any problems getting it started. So on that basis, and despite a slightly trickier setup process initially, I am going to award this a solid 4 out of 5. Reverb G2's okay when it works. Actually, initial setup was not too bad, but I do find the Reverb G2 is very pernickety about whether it wants to actually start up or not. There seems to be some kind of incompatibility going on with the Corsair iQ software, so I find I have to boot my PC with the Reverb G2 connected, otherwise it won't start up properly. That's a little bit disappointing. It would be nice to see HP and Corsair get their heads together and get that issue resolved, but overall, notwithstanding that buggy startup problem, it's pretty good, so it's a 3 out of 5, I think, for the Reverb G2. Quest 2 setup's pretty slick, actually. However, you know, the controversy really with this device is that you have to use your Facebook account to log into it. That is without a doubt going to put many people off. I also found quite a lot of swapping backwards and forwards from the Oculus app on your phone and the device itself. Overall, the setup is not that bad, and once you are set up, getting into this system is as easy as pulling the thing on your head, and actually the wireless AirLink capability to tether to your PC was surprisingly slick and quick to use. I was surprised at how easy it was to get up and running, so a very deserving 4 out of 5 for the Quest 2. Cosmos, I'm afraid to say again, was a pain. Lots and lots of blue screens of death for me. I have reinstalled my computer even to try and resolve this problem, and whilst I can get the headset up and running, it does seem to create some form of instability in my computer that's just disappointing to see. I've raised service tickets with HTC and got a bit of a fob off about NVIDIA drivers, and whilst that might be a contributory problem, it isn't the root cause, I don't think, of the issue. So a disappointing score again for the Cosmos, a 2 out of 5. Rift S setup again is fine, but same issues around the use of Facebook, but overall quite slick, and the inside-out tracking on both the Quest 2 and the Rift S make this really slick and quick to set up without the faffing around of external base stations, so a solid 4 out of 5 here as well. So, value for money. Now, I want to be clear here, we're not necessarily scoring this on the basis of cheapest is best and most expensive is worst. It's about what you get for your money, the overall quality of the device, whether it's feature-rich, etc. Starting with the Valve Index, which is the most expensive in our list here, only just making it under our $1,000 threshold at $999, but it has the best comfort, as we've seen. It has the fastest refresh displays and, frankly, the best controllers of all of the headsets in this lineup, so a very deserving 3 out of 5. Reverb G2 coming in mid-tier at $599 with the highest resolution display, so again a 3 out of 5 awarded here. Quest 2, Facebook have got to be selling these things at cost, if not at a loss. A very competitive $299 for the 64 gigabyte model, and given just how feature-rich this device is, I can't award this anything but a 5 out of 5 from a value perspective. The Cosmos, an eye-watering $699. Frankly, it doesn't warrant the price, so it gets a 1 out of 5 for this, given all of the other challenges that we've already talked about. And the Rift S has been discounted from its original selling price of $399 to $299. That represents reasonable value for money, but you've got to ask yourself the question why, at the same cost for the Quest 2, you wouldn't just go for that. So it's a 2 out of 5 for the Rift S. So scores on the doors. First place goes to the Quest 2 at 56 points, second to the Index at 22, and third to the Reverb G2 at 20. Lagging behind the pack, we've got the Rift S at 18 points and an extraordinarily poor 13 from the Cosmos. So those are the numbers, but it's not always quite that simple. So which of these headsets do I recommend for which sorts of people? And we're going to discount our bottom two, the Rift S. Frankly, today you should be buying the Quest 2, despite some of the artifacting you get from PC tethering. At the same price, you're getting that standalone capability, so I can't recommend the Rift S. And the Cosmos, it's uncomfortable, its tracking really isn't up to the standard. It does have a reasonable display, but I could not recommend it in any use case over any of the other headsets. Well, the Reverb G2 is a very niche device for me. If you are predominantly playing Sims, if you're playing things like DCS World, Elite Dangerous, Microsoft Flight Simulator, that extra real estate, that screen resolution, that lack of screen door effect really is going to make dials, gauges and displays within the cockpit environments much, much easier to read. It's going to make the outside world look altogether better. It's really not got very good tracking, so it's not good for room scale, but if you are Largely dedicated to simming, the Reverb G2 is the best choice for you. If you're a casual gamer with no specific use case and you want the flexibility of being able to pick this headset up either anywhere in your house via your Wi-Fi for PC tethering or take it out on the go, and you want something that's overall pretty good quality with active development, the Quest 2 really is a fabulous headset. If you are playing fast-paced games, things like Beat Saber, and if you're into anything competitive, shooters like Onward, then the Index is without a doubt the best choice for you. And if you know that you aren't going to be playing the headset wirelessly and you aren't going to be taking it out on the go and you're into more casual PC gaming, then the Index is the best choice for you. And of course, the Index also means you are buying into the fantastic modular Steam VR system where you can mix and match different headsets, different controllers. You might want to upgrade and push your threshold higher than the 1,000 limit that we've set in this video and start buying things like the upcoming Pro 2 from HTC Vive. So there we go, guys, the 2021 under 1,000 best VR headset roundup. As always, I hope you're really well wherever in the world you are. Please like, share and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one.